Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and to another installment in the Sydney Railroad build. If you are watching through the last couple of installments, you will have seen me get the mezzanine staging yard benchwork about 2/3 of the way and the track laying about halfway down the room. This week I'm going to finish off that mezzanine level and also turn the corner on the ramp up to the upper level. Quite a lot to get on with, so let's just head back out to the workshop and get busy. As I mentioned earlier, that is as far as I can go until I've built more benchwork. I'm going to go in now, get some lunch, even though it's a bit early, and I will come back out afterwards and build the next frame. I don't feel like starting it now. Well, that is the next frame built. All the woodwork is done. It's only a half-length frame. The reason being that I didn't want a joint around here. So it's a 42-inch frame, and the next one is a 78, so about 6.5 feet. And that takes us to about where the lens cover is. And then the corner section will take us to the end. And that puts the joints well away from turnouts and other things that I don't want to have to break. I didn't stop and make any progress reports during that frame, since it's pretty much the same as all the others. There isn't really anything new. Well, that is the last of the straight sections for this side of the railroad. This piece is 78 inches, so 6.5 feet. And as I mentioned the other day, or yesterday I think it was, the next piece that goes in will be a corner that will reach all the way to the end. It'll be an L-shaped piece, and I haven't designed that yet. I don't have a lot of time today. It's July 4th and I am going out for lunch with some members of my church. I have about an hour and a half before I have to leave, so plenty of time to get this installed and get some more work done on it as well, even though I most likely won't finish it this morning. So let me get back to work and I'll check in with you again later. Well, there is that frame installed. I've got all the legs permanently in. I've got 3 of the 5 bolts in. I can't do the other 2 just yet, because those 2 go through 4 thicknesses and I'm out of long bolts. I've also got the deck in for the 7-track staging yard. That will now hold it rigid so the temporary diagonal brace can come off. I'm going to leave it there, however, because I've got to get ready to go out. I just had enough time to get that far. So stay tuned and I'll be right back this afternoon. Well, I did not come out here again yesterday afternoon. After I got back from lunch, I worked inside instead. But I did get the design for the next frame done. Here it is, printed out. It's quite complicated in that I've got all the special joists. They have to go in the right order. Some of them are critical location as well. And we've got the 2-track short line staging cutting right through the middle of the frame. I want to get that built before I do too much more work on this one because of the long unsupported overhang. The next leg goes in about here. Anyway, I'm just going to get back to work and I will keep you posted periodically, so stay tuned. Well, there is the corner frame almost done. It's not quite finished yet, so there's still a few pieces missing. I need a stiffener in that area, but I don't know quite what is necessary yet. I won't know until I get it installed and start working on the sub-roadbed for the short line staging. There is a joist missing here. That can't be installed until later because it has to go alongside a C-post. You'll see that in a later video, so I don't know exactly where it has to go yet. It's approximately in the middle of that gap, but that's not accurate enough to put it in yet. I'll have to build the C-post first and then just put it alongside it. Anyway, this is probably the heaviest frame I've built so far for this railroad. The next task is to wrestle it into place so that I can install it. So let me get on with that and I will be right back. Well, there is that corner frame lifted into approximately the right location with enough legs under it so that it's not straining the overhang from the previous section. I've now got to get it adjusted accurately, clamp it to the other section, then I can figure out exactly where the 4 legs go. I also need to get a couple of temporary legs in this end so that the cantilever doesn't sag. So let me just get all of that done and I will be right back. Stay tuned. With all the legs done and the plywood sub-roadbed for the 7-track staging yard, next I can start working on the upper grade. And now that I am above the back stringer, the easiest way to mark it is just to clamp an 8-foot strip of plywood the right height at this end. Well, it's a little bit low. It needs to be too low rather than too high because it'll get risers. If it's too high, I'll have to cut it a second time. But if it's too low, it just leaves a bit of a gap, which is fine. And now I can just get a square and mark all of those. That is by far the quickest way of marking the next 9 joists. So let me do that quickly and I will be right back. Well, I've marked all the cutouts and I've then run the skill saw along the top and down the side. That's as much as I can safely do with that saw. And now I've got to finish it with the end cutting multi-saw. So we do that and I will be right back. Well, that is all the cleats installed for that next piece of ramp. I've decided not to screw the sub-roadbed down just yet. Instead, I'm going to finish laying the track in the staging yard below it. Because I figure every piece of benchwork I put in above it restricts the access. I've got the sub-roadbed all the way to the end, so I can finish the track. Anyway, with that in mind, I have already cut the foam rubber for the rest of it. I had to start a new master roll because the previous one was 2 inches too short. But not to worry, I'll still use up the last piece eventually. So let me get all the tools put away, get all that sawdust cleaned off, and I will get back to work. Stay tuned, and I'll be right back. Well, that is all the foam rubber in till the end of the staging yard. 4 sheets wasn't quite enough. I ended up 3 inches short, but I had this odd-shaped offcut from the curve at the other end, and that was just about enough to finish it. So now with that done, it's time to get the track laying tools out again and continue laying track all the way to the end. So stay tuned, and I'll check in with you again later. Well, after making that last clip, I suddenly realized how late it was, so I didn't do any track laying yesterday. I went in, came back out this morning though, and I have laid almost 2 boxes of track. I started about here, and I have now got almost to the end, recycling through the weights twice. And then I just had a lunch break, and now I can move the weights again and continue. Shouldn't take me long to finish. I've only got a few more yards to go. So let me put the camera down, get back to work, and I'll check in with you again later. Don't go away. Well, that is the rest of the mezzanine staging yard finished. Well, all the track laid anyway. It didn't take long. I knew it wouldn't. In fact, I would have finished it before I went in for lunch, except that my stomach was demanding that I fed it. I used up every last inch of that box of concrete tie track. In fact, I had to cheat. I had to splice in a bit of regular track at the end and then salvage some of the extra ties that I cut off, adding that extra 1.5 inch piece at the end. Anyway, with that track laying job done, I can now move on to something else. I think what I'm going to do is install the next piece of sub-roadbed for the grade, and then I'll do the foam rubber and some track, finishing the grade right up to this point while I'm in the mood for track laying. So let me do that and I will be right back. Well, that is as far as I can go for now with the track laying. I don't feel like starting bench work this afternoon. It's Saturday and I've got lots of stuff to get on with inside, layout designs and video editing, stuff like that. So I'm just going to call that a day as far as this project is concerned, and I'm going to go and work inside. So stay tuned and I'll check in with you again on Monday. Well, it is now about midday on Monday. I did not come out here at all yesterday, but I have been out here all morning, and I've got the remainder of the harbour basin and the river bed, all the way to the end where it disappears off the back. Or it stops 5 inches from the back because that's where it interferes with the grade at the back. But by the time it gets there, you'll no longer be able to see it anyway. I have not glued this last piece in, just in case I need to move it, but everything else is properly glued in place. I've still got a little bit more cutting to do here once that clamp has come off. Other than that, it's done. I didn't do it earlier because, as you can see, it does restrict access for track laying somewhat. But I wanted to get it done now because I had a big stack of 1/2-inch plywood offcuts that I could use up. Next task is to continue the wrap around the corner, and for that I think I'm going to have to cut a new sheet because I don't have anything big enough to be worthwhile. I still have a couple of strips 5 inches wide which will do the straight bits, but I need to get a new sheet up on the table to cut the curve. Anyway, I will do that after lunch. My stomach is telling me that I need to go in and feed it. So let me do that and I will be right back. Well, this piece of sub-roadbed around the corner and as far as the end of frame is now complete, properly installed. It took me most of the afternoon to get it right, and I have taken the precaution of making sure that all the screws are on the outside of where the foam rubber roadbed goes, because I might want to take it out again to get the backdrop and the C bracket installed over here. So I took that precaution just in case. I don't think it'll have to come out again, but maybe. I can still lay the foam rubber on it and the track because it can still take it out again even with track on it, as long as I make sure the screws are still accessible. Anyway, I don't feel like doing any more now. I'm going to go in, I know it's a little bit early. I might come out again after dinner, or I might work inside. So stay tuned and I'll check in with you again some other time. Well, this morning I have taken care of 2 tasks. Firstly, you can see that I have completed the foam roadbed and the track as far as the end of benchwork on the ramp between the levels. So now, apart from the canyon scene, track work has now caught up with bench work. The other task I did today, you can see if I turn the camera around, I have installed all the missing back hangers all the way along the back wall. That didn't take very long. Most of them had already been cut, I just had to install them. But at this end I had to make them as well. Anyway, I'm going to go in for lunch now and I'll come back out and continue this afternoon. So stay tuned, I'll be right back. Well, I haven't made any recordings in a couple of days, but I have got the yard lead in for the mezzanine staging, winding its way into the distance and around the front of the helix. It ends just where it hits the aisle. It took a surprising length of time to get that through there, even though I knew more or less how it was going. Haven't wired it up yet, but I have got all the plywood safety fences in. To do that, I had to go right back to the bridge on the upper grade. They were all missing, all the way around the end and on both levels through both the workbench junctions, upper and lower. And I got as far as this corner, and that's when I ran out of plywood. So I stopped there, and that needs to wait until I next go to Lowe's and buy another sheet or 2. I've got loads to get on with. The DCC cabinet has been permanently positioned. You can see there's a couple of temporary braces on the back, holding it exactly the right place so it doesn't get bumped out of alignment. The next task is to put all the control systems on the shelves and work out how I'm going to get the wiring from there to the layout. Well, that's all for this week. Hope you enjoyed the show, found it useful or interesting or both, and I hope to see you back next week, where I will get on with something completely different. Although the track has mostly caught up the benchwork, the wiring is still a long way behind. So I'll get working on that, and switch machines, and control panels, and all sorts of things like that. So next week promises to be a varied installment. But until then, thanks for watching, and bye for now.